And we are here.
We're live. Live.
We are
Testing. Testing. We're live.
live from BOSSMAN Sound Studio. Welcome to episode 3 of JADE TALk. Obviously, you know
We
who the
made
fuck
it.
I am.
We made it.
Here with Jira, my
We
boy who's shy.
we made it.
And introduce yourself for everybody who don't know you.
Artie, what's going on? I'm Artie, independent artist from the land. Hell yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Appreciate y'all for having me.
216
Of course.
in the
Of
building.
course.
Representation.
So shit, we gonna kick this off like we usually do with like what we've been listening to, what you've been vibing on. Honestly, you the guest, so you can go first.
All right, for sure. Shit, recently, honestly, I've been listening to a lot of the shit that I made, if I'm keeping it real. As far as other artists, my boys in Cinco just dropped a project, 17 tracks, fire as fuck. Um, I've been listening to a lot of 454. You put me on to him recently. I've been getting into his
Yes, sir.
discography. Earlier, I was playing some Double O Daredevil for you. So yeah, just some, you feel me, some independent underground shit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's really what I've been on, innovative type.
All right, bet.
Yeah.
Fucking How do you I would say, how would you feel? How do you feel about just sort of the direction of the current underground scene and what's going on? Because I obviously being a part of it yourself, you are in the midst of the creative process. You're hearing other people, peers naturally get influenced by each other. So like, just how do you feel about like the direction of the underground hip hop scene right now?
Currently, the underground hip hop scene, I mean, it's definitely, always ever evolving. It's something to where underground is the innovation for the mainstream game. Like, anything that's hot on the airways is something that was already hot, in the streets for a while. So, I think, I mean, I'm a fan of the current underground scene. I think there's more artists than ever, more different types of styles, more different types of sounds. I think today's underground is a lot more tight knit and interconnected because of the access to people. You can just hop on Instagram and DM a nigga, you know what I'm saying, and find him real quick, chop it up. It's not really too hard to get in contact with somebody these days. So I think more than anything, the scene's just connected now. Like it's very tight knit in terms of networking and conversing in essence. So I mean, it's nice to get adjusted to. You know what I'm saying?
I would say in that connectedness, especially just because of the internet, you're seeing not just interconnectedness from like across the U.S. from the East Coast to the West Coast, but just globally, you have so many artists taking influences from places they normally wouldn't have taken influence from before,
Yeah.
as well as I think nowadays you see underground, especially hip hop. I think you're seeing underground artists be a lot more comfortable with wearing, not necessarily like wearing their influences on their sleeve in terms of like biting a flow or a sound or whatever, but like those more unconventional influences that influence their creative process. You're seeing a lot more artists lean into that, embrace that, not feel as though they need to like morph it and translate it to fit a certain role, but instead like letting that influence be naturally. You're seeing that a lot more.
I think we a lot of the what we listen to, especially in the underground and modern music, comes from the era of recording on SoundCloud. It comes from the era
Yeah.
of Spinrilla and like downloading MP3s and burning music on the discs and whatnot. Like I remember when I got my first laptop that had a CD port because I wasn't allowed to use my mom's expensive desktop computer
Right.
to do that, and I could burn the music that I want or burn like certain record the beats from the radio. or like from YouTube and burn them onto the CD. Like
Right.
I heard that mention that brought up recently, and I was like, wow, that just brings up a lot of memories of how we used to sample different things, music that we liked, and make it our own, and like mix and match and make our own playlist to be able to rap over. And nowadays, like especially in the last few years, we went on this road of music being really sample heavy,
Yeah.
and I think the number one, the precedent of sampling, and then the birth and the rise of vaporwave, or its popularization, I should say.
Yeah.
Vaporwave really made people comfortable with going, you know what? I like your culture. I like that style. I'm gonna just take that for my own, and I'm gonna wear like kind of like a sticker on my backpack.
Right.
And I think people just aren't afraid to be influenced by other people's music and by other people's like little snippets in time.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you when you're constructing your music nowadays, when you're listening to, you can kind of hear what people like because they wear it on their sleeves like emotions. So
Right. There used to be a time where like even if you did have your influences, you were kind of incentivized to not sound too much like somebody else or not sound like you're doing like if you wanted to have like if you were a rapper but you wanted to have influence from another genre, there was a need to kind of translate it to still sound like a hardcore hip hop beat type of thing. Where nowadays, if someone's like, "Yo, I just want to rap on a full on drum and bass beat,
yeah,
like just straight as is," or like even the song we was playing earlier, it was just more of a dance type song, and just be like, "Oh, I just want to hop on that straight as is, get into that groove, not have to. Okay, well, how do I take that?" But translate it into a boom bap beat or to a trap beat, things like that. And I think that's ultimately rooted in just the general because what in 2024 we're two generations deep now of kids and teenagers growing into adults now who've grown up on YouTube, grew
yeah,
up on grew up just used to like the barrier for something being out of your time or not of your generation is kind of gone now. You can be into and be influenced by something from the 70s, from the 80s, from the 2000s all equally because you're just used to having access to any of it with no sort of boundaries for what you can get into type thing.
as as far as like the aspect of it being like tight knit and underground, I definitely feel that, especially in the city. I think this is in Cleveland. It's something that feels a bit more homey than a lot of other places. Not to say that people in other cities aren't tight knit with their individual groups. It just feels like there's a lot of different verticals in Cleveland, and like our mission is to kind of bring those together so we can push each other up. Whereas in other cities, it seems like they're it seems like a lot of people, especially if you grew up in like on the West Coast, if you're making music out of L.A., if you're making music, especially in the New York scene, there's this of baseline of venues that you go to, of people that you have to see. There's this baseline of like places you got to drop music videos. There's places that you have to do music. There's open mics you got to hit. Uh, in order for you to establish yourself.
Right.
Here, there's not really a playbook. It's kind of like you meet people over time, you network, and you show up and you show face. And I noticed like that's how you get on with people. You Every connection that we made in this last year with people in Cleveland, it's just been by being completely genuine and just having a conversation. And all of a sudden, you're just locked in with that person, and and now you're making music, and it comes by virtue of you just showing face and literally being there. Because you can show up and do music at a venue in Cleveland, and people still not know who you are at the end of the night. So I think that's what's unique about here. We like to get a pulse for like who you are. We're a bit more interpersonal, but I see that becoming a trend that people are more open in general in the music game. It's just like it just depends on your city and how it functions for you to be able to push out into the open market. So yeah, I like the trend. the power's moving away from big industry. So if we're all going to be independent anyway, and it's going to be the wild wild west, then we need to get used to be able to function with each other. So
Yeah, no, for sure. To your point about like just the interconnectedness of other cities compared to Cleveland, I think a lot of that is just geared towards the fact that a lot of these other cities uh, have a lot more in place. You know what I'm
that's true.
saying? Like
That's true.
in terms of just DJs around and like you said, like open mics and stuff like that. Like actually, I went to an open mic, I believe about 6 months or so now, at Lava Room Studios. It was
Mhm.
ran by Something Dope for the People, which is basically a collective based out of Los Angeles, and they essentially do like open mic events,
Mhm.
for upcoming artists based out of LA. But when I was able to get in with them, they were kind of doing a tour around the country, so they came to Cleveland, and one of the heads of it was a guy named Jeremy Hecht,
Okay.
who actually has a podcast right now with Elliot and some other, you know what I'm saying,
Mhm.
talking heads in the music game. And it's one of the more
Well, shout
popular
out to them.
podcasts out, yeah, out right now. So it was just cool to make that connection, you feel me, like right before they started that and say, like, I can know that guy type shit. But yeah, man, like that's the sort of thing that we need here, like people that are looking for talent, because it's not, for a lack of talent why Cleveland isn't on the scene in terms of hip hop as other cities are, but it's just people here looking for that talent, you know what I'm saying, trying to comb through the files and see where the gems really are. Um,
It's sifting for gold.
yeah, for sure.
Like you just
For
gotta
sure.
gotta shake away all the extra sediment.
Yeah.
And as the city's developing, we all gotta really like create a platform for us all to be able to come together.
Mm.
So there.
And I think in just being downtown, working downtown, I see just like seeing the city develop in real time, new attractions being built in real time. Uh, working at the Working at the hotel, I meet a lot of people who are from out of town, from different states visiting Cleveland, and a lot of them speak on how there's a lot of untapped potential in Cleveland. And I think as boss man, what we can stand to do is to tap into that potential ourselves as grassroots people, natives to the city, versus because I've talked to a few people who I've talked like in terms of you say like DJs and whatnot. There's a this group of DJs like 5 or 6 dudes in a DJ collective I met at the skate park, and they were talking about how they are hitting and being at so many different places, getting their name out there, doing different venues, doing places like Forward, Lago, shit like that. But the thing that really caught my ear was one of the main dudes. He's from New York. He's a New York native DJ, and he was talking about how he wants to bring the sound of Cleveland of New York to Cleveland, and I was thinking, well, I think a more important thing that would really help the scene is if we had DJs who were regularly playing local artists, regularly getting out the name. Because, like you said, in places like New York, that's happening. In somewhere like LA, that's happening. They're playing their local acts. They're not just playing whoever's top of the charts or whatever. They're putting who's at the top of our city. That's who we're putting on. That's who we're repping. That's who we're listening to. And I think there's reasons Cleveland is lacking in that. I think for a while it's been sort of kind of a brain drain kind of effect where a lot of the biggest artists who were from Cleveland who blew up would take their talent to a bigger city out of Cleveland. So instead of investing in building those venues and building those DJs and whatnot in Cleveland, that talent ended up getting outsourced to a city that already had that going on, type of thing. Which on an individual person's career, you do what you got to do to get take opportunities and build up and whatnot. But and it's definitely harder to build something from the ground up, grassroots, versus getting involved in something that's already established. But I've always viewed there's always there needs to be someone who's willing to do that work. To do that, is someone fucking knocking?
I think, yeah, I did hear that.
Yeah, but I mean, I made my point mostly anyway. I'm gonna switch this over to Tyler. You haven't talked about like what you've been listening to or anything recently, and I'm gonna check this door real quick.
Uh, I have been listening to. I'm not sure who will be at the door. I want to make sure I get this correct. Uh, so this will be edited out, or he might keep it. We'll see. Hey yo, hey yo, what's going on with you?
Got people in the scene always showing up. What were you talking about?
Oh yeah, what I've been listening to. I got sidetracked. So you put me on the Norris by Time, and I've been listening to some of his projects. I kind of went back early in his discography, and then as of recent, I've been on what is the name of it? I just erotic probiotic.
Oh yeah, erotic probiotic.
Yeah.
I was listening to that.
Yep. And then so El Costo is the other thing that's been filling up my like whenever I listen to music, I have to for some reason I gotta hit straight drop season volume 2. I just have to start play that from start to finish. It just like I don't know why. It's 2 projects ago, but still, it's just for some reason, it's when he started like actually defining his sound, and it became a formula for him. El Costo has a lot of uniqueness to the way he lays down these bars, and I like his personality. Like I 100% want to make music with him at some point, like to almost to the point where I just want to lay something down and then send it to him. Just DM the man and be like, please, bro, like just, let's just coalesce on the mental and just come together and make some bangers. So straight drop season volume 2. And for some reason it's the I've been on once just to. It's just been. This is literally just my inner thoughts. This is how I feel on a daily basis.
Tried discouraging me and it made my self-esteem flourish. What it is, whipping $1,000 rotisserie, smoking pounds of UUV. I got a photo shoot at 6:30. I got to steam press my jeans for her. It's a Vivian Westwood jacket and Dior bag from '93.
Oh.
My time like a press athlete, but all this shit that come with pain and pics and bitch, you better earn your $2. Co-conscious, her side dexterous. I can elaborate over the topic. I gave the detail whatever. I was coming out of 1095. I couldn't get my seat with the bucket. Oh, friends.
That shit is fucking crazy. It was interesting seeing El Custo live at Grog Shop because he was like the first to go up during that set with Neonte, 454, Mike, all of them. And I think he performed a few things off of here, especially like and on top of that, like new stuff that was coming out. And it was interesting. Like I could hear him on stage, sort of like getting more acclimated and getting more comfortable with his style, with performing it, with because it was sort of like yeah, I could tell the crowd didn't really know what to do with him at first when he first came up. And then after a few tracks in, it was like people started to understand. He got more comfortable with it, and then it's on his latest album, which was Dirty Harry.
BW.
Yeah, BW. I think on this track, you really heard him. I really heard him like from this one on this one. I was like, oh, this is an El Cousteau track.
Yeah, this is. Yep.
Not listening to no opinions of niggas telling me what the fuck I should have did. I look at myself and look at my soul. The mid lady really ain't been me when you pray like I need you to say something. Say a little something displeasing me for the wrong idea or the lies I told. All my insecurities. I'm a wild ass nigga, I'm a bad man, I'm a bad motherfucker. But a motherfucker with a concrete ass, my last nigga trying to touch me. That emotional rage I've been holding it so long, it's time to take off. Some about something in doors and then off a pop and something on matter no longer. Who'd I be able to find out? You miss out upon decision, the girl's coming over. Got my seat lean back while we driving around this pink girl, she my show. When I get home from making money all day, I ask her to massage my shoulders. They ain't looking like who the fuck's them look like the nigga that your ass should know. I see these niggas looking for romance. Father figures me son to believe it. She'll never go to a matinee with me. That's too early for a demon. Wonder what they say when I'm not around. Wonder what I really think of a nigga. Question and fresh, I thought I never had to. Somebody the fuck come dance this. I know you thought that we got in the same shoes. One night down there, came my chick. Why can't when they take our clothes? I get home, so me and her had sex. They all the time out bullshit. No, we supposed to be on them private jets. All the girls in the crowd got super Cousteau sitting across their chest. Oh, whoa, whoa. Oh, my fucking God. When I pick my feet up, feeling like I'm walking on a cloud. Had a roller window down, let the smoke got the power. Baby girl, that ain't my dick, bitch. That's it, out.
I love fucking Cousteau. And fucking, I think the first time I heard him was on first time I ever heard him was on Muzzle Beach off Mike's album.
I think a lot of people heard him for the first time then.
Definitely.
Oh yeah.
Fucking
Right. That's what the microphones are for.
In terms of what I've been listening to recently, it's been a mixture of Cousteau, 454, the stuff, classic stuff I've talked about before. Is just sort of stayed in rotation. Your Mike, your 454, JPEG Mafia. Bless you.
Thank you.
The new ASAP Rocky track, fucking Taylor Swift. I did not think that song would like stick with me as much as it did.
I haven't heard it, but
Oh, you haven't heard it?
nothing on Taylor Swift's radar.
All right.
Shows up in my.
I don't know if we can play a snippet of that without getting copyrighted. I'm not sure.
Oh
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's a fucking new Rocky track. So like, but
Excuse me, brother. DMCA.
right. But honestly, like you said before, my diet has mostly been just the old music we've been working on, and
A lot of music we made, and then just to make sure everybody around us, really trying to get the context of the music that the people around us are making. Just so I can I really like to sit down and kind of digest how people are feeling, because the music you're making right now is a snapshot of your life, regardless of if you're doing it actively or subconsciously. It's still a snapshot of what's going on around you, your perspective on it. So it's interesting. I definitely feel you on that.
I think the most fascinating thing is just as so many of us have been in this studio working on our own stuff and just being in earshot proximity, seeing so many of us just naturally start collaborating with each other, working with each other. Like you said, you showed me one of your tracks that my brother Matt mixed and mastered, and that shit was a fucking banger. The shit was crazy.
Yeah, appreciate you, bro. I can't sleep. Yeah, I sent it to him. It was my first time actually working with him and shit. It's a song that I've been sitting on for probably a year and a half now. I ain't gonna lie, it's an older song for me, but yeah, I've always had a plan for it and that shit. I heard some shit that he had already worked on, so I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna throw this to you, see what you can do.
Right.
He went crazy on it. So.
It's I would say most casual listeners wouldn't think about stuff like mixing and mastering and engineering.
It's almost 70% of the project.
Yeah, and like as an like when you're an actual artist yourself, you wouldn't like the amount at which a good mix can completely transform how you feel about the same song. Like I have songs that like I've made that like I hate listening to them until like I got better at mixing and my brother helped mix it and then like P gave me some pointers and one like that, and then after that I've come around, like some of them I've come around to them being my favorite tracks, period, just because the sonics can actually cut through the way I want them to and actually sound and capture the idea in its full essence. It's really amazing. But on top of that, just from everyone in the studio working with each other, even like hearing each of us like in a very subtle ways artistically influencing each other, whether that's I've never even heard of a sound like that, I kind of want to like hop on what he's doing, or I kind of want to incorporate like I love his flow, so I want to incorporate a little bit of that. Like even on some of the songs you were showing me, you had a way of flowing and harmonizing with yourself.
Yeah, the harmonies are like real smooth. Those are real cool.
Yeah, some of the ways you harmonize with yourself, I was like, dang, I've never tried that before. That shit sounds really fucking good. So I'm like, okay, I might need to, like you said earlier, fucking Sharon got that. By that.